Hey guys, welcome to Audio Workstations. This is John Barry. I appreciate you guys being patient. Just to let you guys know, we have 2 sessions that are going to happen each week. Every single week, I'll meet with you guys on Monday evening, just like we've done tonight. And so I look forward to having a really good time hanging out. And just to kind of give you a quick overview of what these live streams should be treated as. Our live stream session that you guys have showed up to tonight, we're actually going to be using this platform to really show you how to remix a song throughout a 1-month period. But basically, we're going to be doing a remix in about the period of 8 hours. In other words, we're going to be meeting 2 hours a week. So each Monday night, you guys will be coming and hanging out with me. If you can't make it, that's okay. Not a big deal. The sessions will be archived, and they will be posted for you to view at a later date. Now, so this is really cool because we're actually going to be working on your final project throughout the entirety of the month. So I'm going to show you this evening where we're going to go get those materials from and how to get started. Tonight's basically going to just be getting you guys up to speed with Pro Tools, showing you the environment, showing you how to import files, explaining to you how the file structure works, where your files are stored, and that sort of thing. So tonight will be kind of soft, but you're going to find that these sessions are going to ramp up and start taking off really, really fast. And I don't want to scare you. So I just kind of wanted to give you the lay of the land. We're going to be working on the final project every time you guys show up for these live stream sessions. So there is another required viewing that's actually probably more important than watching this one. And if you go back and you take a look at your activities, you'll see that there actually is basically a lecture that will explain a lot of the things that I may actually end up glossing over, because we're going to be diving in so quick to just get right into your project that's showing you basically really small in the intricate parts of Pro Tools will really all be covered in those required viewings. So be sure you watch those. Those are going to be really, really important. In those required viewings, about half of your test questions are covered in those required viewings. So basically, just understand that if you're having issues with your final project, that's what's going on each of these sessions. There will be another session as well. Another session will happen every Thursday night, and that is held by my associate, Brad Barbie. Again, they're not required viewings to show up to these live stream sessions. They're going to be very, very helpful because, again, we're going to be taking you through your final project throughout the entire month and getting you started on it here tonight, right from the beginning. So it would be really helpful for you to show up for those. That way you're not stuck week 4 wondering what's going on with your final project when we've actually been working on it the whole month. But those required viewings are going to be really, really important because that's where your test questions are going to come from. So just a couple quick things about myself and the class. And the way the class is structured. So far this week, you'll have a test on Friday. It's a multiple choice test. It's an open book test. You should have already received your book, Pro Tools Ignite, and it is in the form of an ebook, which is basically tied to your secured PDF Vital Source link. And if you haven't gotten that yet, then you need to contact FSO support. Unfortunately, I don't have any control over book distribution. It's up to FSO support. So if you haven't got your book yet, I apologize. Just contact FSO support this evening, and they'll get you up and started. So again, I wish I could help you with your book, but I can't. It has nothing to do with me. Just contact FSO support, and they'll get you up and started. Now, when we are talking about Pro Tools, the current version of Pro Tools, I'm actually running the latest version that we're going to be using in this class. Let me go ahead and we'll just take a look at Pro Tools here. We're running version 10.3.6. And so I know out there somewhere across America or across the world, someone is saying, hey, wait a minute, there's a new version of Pro Tools. You're on an old version. There's a Pro Tools 11. And yes, there is. However, I don't own it yet. and I would recommend that you hold off on getting it unless they give you a free upgrade or something like that, which is great. But don't do your assignments in version 11 because since I don't own it, I won't be able to open it if you do it in version 11. So just keep that in mind. Current versions of Pro Tools that we can use in this class are going to be version 8, version 9, and version 10. All of the information regarding those pieces of software can be found in your pardon me, software installations and updates. Give me 1 second. I'll just return. Give me 1 second. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. All right. So again, you can use versions 8, 9, or 10. Yes, there is a version 11. If you've got 11 and you want to download it, that's fine. But understand you can't turn in any of your work to me using Pro Tools 11. Oh wow, I've already got some students that are on it. I'm seeing Brandon says she's down 11. Cool. You can download it, but don't actually use it for this class because I don't have it yet. And then Larry Jones is saying Pro Tools 11 is the truth. I don't know what you mean by that, but there are some drawbacks to using version 11 currently. So while I love Pro Tools, it's important I show you some of the weaknesses of it as well. Version 11 is a complete rewrite from the ground up. Version 10 that you're looking at right here, this has been added on throughout the years. So the application has just been getting bloated and bloated. Every time they do updates, they don't rewrite all the code. They just add new code along with the existing code that's already there. And so the application ends up getting just bloated by computer geek terms, meaning that the application just keeps getting added to. Pro Tools 11 has been a rewrite from the ground up, which actually means once I do go out and purchase version 11, I can install it on my system and I can run version 10 and version 11 without any issues because they're not going to have any conflicts. They're two totally separate applications now. Now, there's no reason to run them side by side and open at the same time, but for studios that are upgrading, what they're finding out is with version 11 has done away with one of the Pro Tools standards in plugin format, which is called RTAS. We'll talk a little bit more about what that is later on throughout the month, but to kind of break it down to you, what does that mean? It means that all the plugins currently have to be ported over to what's called AAE, Avid's Audio Engine, instead of RTAS, which stands for Real-Time Audio Suite. To put it into simple terms, it means now that they moved on to 11, all these manufacturers that are out there that have created plugins now have to rewrite their code or port over their code to this new AAE, Avid's Audio Engine, and no longer use RTAS. So if you were to install version 11, that's fine. You can run it on your machine. Just do not turn in your work using 11. You'll end up getting a 0 because I won't be able to open it. So just please understand current versions that can be run in this course are 8, 9, and 10, and the specifics on which ones those are, we've already listed for you in your software installation and updates, which is one of your first assignments to do this week. Of course, we need to make sure you're up and running with the current latest version of Pro Tools. I actually think in my doc, pardon me a second, I think in that doc, I've actually have listed Pro Tools 10.3.5. And that is because generally I'll usually hold off on going with the latest and greatest update. And here's why. A lot of times whenever there's updates, like you can see we're currently on version 10.3.6, well, that's all well and good. It's the latest version of Pro Tools 10. Sometimes there will be inherent bugs whenever they go and add code or update something. Sometimes they break other things by accident. So because I tend to get involved in other outside projects, I usually hold off because I don't want to be on the bleeding edge, on the cutting edge, because sometimes that'll come back to sting you. If you've updated and now it's dodgy, Pro Tools isn't running well. Well, if you got a client that's expecting to have something delivered to them, they don't care about your software issues. They just want to know that their product shows up at the correct time. So keeping that in mind, understand that this class does not accept late assignments. You'll see that listed in every single assignment. So if you email me asking for some form of extension, I'm going to kindly decline you. And it's not that I'm trying to be a jerk to you. I'm trying to instill in you discipline and understand that this is a deadline-based industry. You either put up and shut up. In other words, you either give the product when they want the product or you don't get the gig. So just keep that in mind. None of your assignments will be accepted late. So I know it sounds kind of hardcore, sounds kind of crass, but hey, you're in college, and it's time to bone up. All right. So current version of Pro Tools, yes, there is a version 11. Please don't use it. Again, if you submit your work with Pro Tools 11, I'm going to send you back a big fat 0, and you're not going to like that. It's because I don't have Pro Tools 11. Of course, I can go out and purchase it, but right now Pro Tools 10 is running great for me. And plus, a lot of my plugins are not up to code with the AAE standard, Avid's audio engine. All my plugins are currently RTAS, and I've been buying plugins for years and years. So I've got to wait for all these manufacturers to kind of get up to speed before I'm ready to make the jump to 11. You'll find that a lot of major studios are doing this as well. They're going to wait. They're going to wait because they need to get their projects done. While Pro Tools 11 is out, that doesn't mean that Pro Tools 11 it doesn't have some hairy bugs that are in there as well that might choke up the workload. And again, obviously, if your plugins aren't developed and ready for 11, then that's going to cause you an issue as well. So just keep in mind, for this class, you can use versions 8, 9, or 10, and specific directions are given to you in our software installations and getting started. So a quick little kind of splurb about who I am, how I came to be. I basically was really fortunate as a kid, and I was raised in a musical family. My father played bass with Nat King Cole, Wayne Newton, Kenny Rogers, Willie Nelson. I got to actually go and watch my father perform at venues as a kid and stay up late and drink Shirley Temples, which, by the way, is an alcoholic drink. It's basically Sprite and grenadine with a cherry, and watch my dad perform on stage. So I really was kind of brought into music in a really unique environment, and then I got to witness my father on stage performing with some of these great artists. Really, really cool upbringing. I started playing the clarinet at age, let's see, 6th grade. So whatever age I was at 6th grade, I wasn't really fond of the clarinet, and it just wasn't hip enough for me. I didn't feel like it was cool. So I put the clarinet away after playing it maybe for about a year. And I really kind of left music alone until right before I got out of high school. And then I took up DJing. And I got a couple residencies here in town and started doing some of the bigger rave events. And my whole thing was I really liked DJing. So halfway through my DJing career, I thought about it. I'm like, wait a minute. So these dance records that I'm playing out to these large venues, I wanted to figure out how these sounds were made. So I went out and I started doing some research. Well, how are these sounds made? Well, you need to make some sounds with a synthesizer, and then you're probably going to need a drum machine. And then you're going to need a mixer so you can actually hear those two units being played together. Then you're going to want to put some effects on them. So before you knew it, I actually amassed a really big studio. And one of my first projects that I ever worked on was a project called Boys and Girls United. You can look at it if you want to. It's kind of funny. It's kind of cheesy. It was like a boy band / girl band where they took 2 guys and 2 girls, tried to put them together. And I did a song called Messed Around. And they liked it so much it was slated originally to just go on the single, and they liked it so much they put it on the album as well. So that was really cool, and it ended up landing in the Billboard Top 40 dance chart. So it was on the dance chart for 2 weeks, and then fell off to obscurity. And the band is now broken up. So that was probably the biggest highlight that I have. The song that you guys currently heard on the intro, and I can pull this up for you here too, was a song I did a year ago for DJ Icy, who I'm very good friends with. And so this is a track called Rick Rack. I was just kind of giving you guys a demonstration of some of the work. So you guys see that we're not just old has-beens that have never done anything and don't do anything anymore. We're just all crotchety teachers. We actually are still in the industry working currently. So keep that in mind. We're still doing our deal. So cool. That's a record you got to hear. Gives you a little bit of insight from where I come from. I'm a huge synth head. I love synthesizers. I owned a very large studio, and I since now sold off all of my gear. In my career, I've owned over 300 different synthesizers, and probably slightly more than that. Most of them analog, some digital, but I've now realized we can basically take care of all of that inside of the computer now, where I don't have to have an expensive power bill to have a room that gets heated up from all these different components that have to be fired up in order to get everything to play together. Also, now that it's all on the computer, which you can see here in Pro Tools, now whenever I want to work on a new song, I just hit save and go work on a new song. Whereas when I had it all wired into a mixer, I had to work on that song until you got it finished. If I started working on another song, I'd never be able to recall the mix correctly and get all the EQ settings correct on the mixer itself. So there's a lot of benefits to the DAW. Pardon me, guys. I feel like I have the onset of a little bit of a cold coming on. I got a scratchy throat here. So let's just talk about Pro Tools here a little bit. And one thing I want to talk about is a way to make yourself have a better experience in this class. Now, here's where I'm going to hit you up, and you don't actually have to go out and buy this, but I want you to see a full Mac keyboard. Full Mac keyboard is this guy down here, not this guy here, and notice the difference. And I'll pull up the image here so you can actually see it. Oh, here's an older one too. Let's show you the older one because it's basically the same thing, and you can probably find these older ones cheap. So old Mac keyboard. Yeah, we can see it here. It's basically the same exact layout as the new ones. It's just notice the keys they stand up a little higher. And if you look at the keys on your current laptop, you're missing something. What you got on your laptop is you got this section here. You got all these keys, but you're missing this section here as well as this section. And that's pretty important. This is a numeric keypad. And the numeric keypad is going to be used by Logic, Sibelius, Nuendo, Pro Tools, Cubase. They all use these numeric keypads for quick keys. This application Pro Tools, let's go and show you the newer, sleeked. Now it's the same keyboard, but notice here it's just a little thinner. It's a brushed aluminum, so it matches your laptop. Either of those keyboards would be great. So if you actually were to go to eBay and want to buy one of these keyboards, I'd probably invest in the older Mac style. Let's go ahead and check out eBay real quick. The only reason I'd pick the older Mac style is because it doesn't give you any new features. It does the same exact thing. Let's do Mac keyboard. And besides, I know you guys are students. You don't have a lot of money, and you don't need to go throwing around $50 on a keyboard when you can pick one up for probably, I've seen them as cheap as $9, but I know you could find them for, in fact, let's put an old Mac keyboard. I know you can find one for around 15 bucks. Now, you don't have to have them for this class. However, you're going to start to see me fly around through Pro Tools here in a second. You're going to be like, how did he do that? It's because I'm using that numeric keypad. So here's the older style. It's just done with black keys. That's kind of high. That's a high price for a keyboard. I wouldn't spend that on a used keyboard. I'm sure we could find one cheaper. Let's take a look. I probably won't spend too much here time skimming around trying to find. Not very many hits. Let's see. Old style. Let's try that. Style. So at some point, you don't have to do it in this class, but you're going to want to consider purchasing. Now, see this guy? You don't want that. It's missing the numeric keypad. The cool thing about this is it's wireless, so it's Bluetooth, but you're missing the whole point of having it because we need the numeric keypad. Oh, here's an old school one, but don't use this because look at the connection here. It's a serial port. It does have the numeric keypad, though. You also don't want to use a PC keyboard. You want to make sure you use a Mac keyboard. So, again, you're not going to be required in my class to use the quick keys. In the past, and you might actually hear some of our documents refer to always using quick keys and how important that is. I've come to find out that you guys are going to learn these quick keys whenever you get tired of doing the same thing over and over and over to the point where you have carpal tunnel. That's where you're going to say, hey, wait a minute, I got to figure out a better, quicker way of doing this. So that's when you're going to decide to start using these quick keys. But again, for this class, you don't have to use them. I don't mind if you go dig around to the menu to go File and look under Import, only to see that it's Shift-Command-I. I don't mind at all. As long as you know how to navigate around Pro Tools, you'll be fine in this class. And that's our goal for the month, is to really kind of get you guys up and running. I know you guys have already had another course that does utilize Pro Tools. you're going to find that my course is going to be a lot more in depth. All of your instructors that are going to be training you this month, that are my cohorts, we are all certified. I've been dealing with Pro Tools for 16 years, so you're going to find that I know a lot of ins and outs in dealing with Pro Tools, and we're all, again, certified operators. In other words, DigiDesign has come to our location and certified us. So that means we have a wealth of knowledge to share with you. So let's go ahead and let's get started. Let's kind of take you from the ground up. We're here looking at a complete session. And if we were to dig around through this session, let's kind of, I tell you what, let's start with a brand new session. And that way we can just kind of show you how that works. Let me go back and see if I've missed any questions here. By the way, guys, there are a lot of us that are hanging out in our class line, which is great. But in the event that I miss your question in the chat post, I'm going to apologize in advance first, and I don't mean to. It's just that the chat window is so small that if 3 people post, then I won't be able to see your post, and so sometimes things will get missed, and I apologize. What I generally will do is I usually kind of just chug along through the class. I keep my eye kind of going down to the chat window every once in a while. And then I'll usually open it up at the end of the class for like 15 minutes where we just have any question that you want. You can ask anything underneath the sun. And then, of course, if you need to actually speak with me personally, sometimes I'll pop up my iChat. That way, not everyone has to see the full conversation. There will be an archive. Someone says they have to leave, not a problem. So there will be an archive of this session, and you'll find that underneath your announcement section tomorrow. I'm sorry, someone was asking for my iChat address. I can give it to you now. Here, we'll go ahead and I'll just type it out for you. It's also in the rubric, but here, I'll go ahead and type it out for you. There you go. There is my iChat address. So hit me up at some point. The first time you contact me, make sure you tell me your first and last name. And the reason why is iChat's only going to display your handle. So if your handle is KillerDJ546, well, then I don't know who I'm addressing. So just make sure the first time you ever hit me up to include your first and last name. What I end up doing is I take your first and last name and I actually copy and paste it over into my contact information. That way, every time you hit me up via iChat again, then it'll store it, and that way I know who I'm chatting with. All right, let's get started. Let's go ahead and let's close our current session, and let's just talk about. Let's get started in showing you how to open a session and create a session, where you would store a session, and then what's stored in that session. Close Pro Tools real quick. Got a couple other windows here we can get out of the way. All right. We'll close these windows out here. So let's take a look here. So I've got Pro Tools open, and I know I have Pro Tools open because I'm using Command and Tab. Command Tab is going to show you any application you have open, and it'll actually allow you to navigate to that application. So if I go to Pro Tools, we can see it's already open. And we can see the Pro Tools insignia is up at top, so I know Pro Tools is open. It doesn't look like it is, but it is. If you look down in your dock, you can see there's a small arrow underneath Pro Tools letting you know it's open. So we have really 2 options at this point. We can go open a session that we have already created, or we can open up a brand new session. If you look underneath your file menu, those are going to be the options for you. You can open up a brand new session, which is what we're going to do today. You can open an existing session, one that you had already created in the past, and then you have the option of opening recent. So it'll allow you to go back through and find one of your more current tracks that you've been working on. For today, we're going to go ahead and do new session. Chris had a question, so I'm going to pause it just to answer Chris's question. Chris says, I see the assignments say that we have to use the shortcuts for our videos. If we're used to normal navigation, can we do that instead? Yeah, absolutely. Remember, I'm not going to require you guys to use the quick keys. I would love it if you learn them, but I know that that will happen over time. I'm not going to. I found in the past that making you guys learn the quick keys to Pro Tools was really turning students off. It's already hard enough to learn a brand new application, and then we give you a Captain Key decoder, and then you have to figure out that to even run it. How about for now, just navigate the menus and you'll be fine. It would really benefit you to go out and purchase the full Mac keyboard like I showed you, only because not only Pro Tools, but Logic, Cubase, and Windows, they all utilize the full numeric keypad. So it's really going to benefit you. If this is what you're going to do for your career, you're going to want to own a full numeric keyboard, a full-size keyboard. So just keep that in mind. You don't have to have it for this course. Would it help you? Yes. Am I going to count you off if you don't use quick keys? No. I don't mind if you navigate through menus. So just keep that in mind. All right, we're here in the new session dialog box. And here in our new session dialog, we've got a couple different options here. Let's start at the top where it says create session from template. Now you guys are familiar with this. You guys have seen this through Logic, all right? You're going to find that Logic and Pro Tools are very, very similar in a lot of different ways, and then there's a lot of ways that they're not similar at all. I happen to love Logic, and I ended up starting with Logic years and years ago, back when they were eMagic, and they were a German company. Of course, Apple owns them now. But you might hear me compare and contrast, and if it ever sounds like I'm putting down Logic, please understand I've been using Logic forever, and I love Logic. However, I am full-blown Pro Tools just because to me, it's my axe. It's what I wield. So I'm not going to try to convert you, but I will explain to you that 90% of the studios you're going to go work in are going to be running Pro Tools. You're not going to see a huge SSL console, but you are going to see Pro Tools. Just keep that in mind. So this is kind of a big deal. This is one of the things you're going to see in your industry. So you notice here we can actually create a session from a template. We've got all these little templates. So you're used to that. We can go and do, let's see here, recording and mixing. And notice here what it's going to do is it's going to build the tracks for us already. So it's basically just kind of setting up a template for what you'd want to use. For right now, though, let's keep it simple. Let's go ahead and just create a blank session. So that way I can show you what it would be like to basically start from scratch. So here's where, whenever you're creating a brand new session, here's where you're going to be setting up your session parameters. Notice here we can choose the file type. We have Broadcast Wave and AIFF. If there's anybody in the class, by the way, is there anyone currently in the class that's using Pro Tools 8? Anybody in class using Pro Tools 8? Okay, I don't see any yeses, so it sounds like, okay, Joseph says you got it on your PC. See, I have it, but I don't use it anymore. Okay, cool. Now, in Pro Tools 8, you're actually going to see another file type here that we don't see anymore. And that's the only reason I wanted to point this out. Anytime there's something different in one of the versions of Pro Tools, I'm going to try and stop and actually explain to you what those are, and that way you'll know it. So if you are using Pro Tools 8, or if you ever go work on a system that's Pro Tools 8, you'll see also SD2, it stands for Sound Designer 2. It's now a defunct and has been format, and it's basically created by DigiDesign, but they've ditched it. They've ditched it, and we should get used to using Broadcast Wave. Now, why would I tell you to get used to using Broadcast Wave? For those of you that have done a little bit of research, and you may remember from your digital audio and theory course, or why would we want to use Broadcast Wave versus AIF? Which one of these sounds better? Is there one that does sound better? Why would I tell you to use Broadcast Wave and get in the habit of using Broadcast Wave? That's a good guess. Someone said less space. That's a good guess. It's really not the answer, but that's okay. It's a very good guess. The real reason is because Broadcast Wave is cross-compatible between a Mac and a PC. So in the event you want to open up this session on a PC, if you choose AIF, it's never going to happen. The PCs do not recognize AIF. So get in the habit of using Broadcast Wave. Then you have your sample rate. You can choose whatever sample rate you want. We're all familiar with what sample rate does. I'm going to go ahead and stick with 44.1 for right now. And then we have this thing called I/O settings. I/O settings really is short for input and output settings. Get in the habit of using stereo mixed. For the most part, well, everything we're going to do this month is going to be stereo mixed. Now, if you were to set this up wrong, and let's just say you got in the habit of using last use, and you were working in a studio, and you want to work on something stereo, but the guy ahead of you was working on 5.1, if you chose last used, you're going to hear sound coming out of the wrong speakers. So for this class, get used to using stereo mixed. And then we have our bit depth. For right now, I'm going to go ahead and just stick with 24. You can choose whatever you want. But we'll do 24-bit, 44.1, good to go. All right, now this is the only place where you can actually set up your session parameters. Once you set these up, they can't be changed once you open the session. So if you needed to change them at a later date, you'd either need to do a save as or save copy in, which we'll talk about. But this is basically where you're going to set everything up. All right, cool. Somebody mentioned something about interleave. It sounds like you're actually referring to the balance window. We're actually doing session setup here. Notice here we have stereo mix dealing with input and output. Okay. Now, since we hit OK, Pro Tools is going to say, well, hey, where do you want to put this? For demonstration purposes only, I am going to put this on my desktop. However, I would like to first show you the proper folder hierarchy that you should get in the habit of. There's nothing worse than working on a song, having the client show up and ready to pay you for it, and then you can't find their work. So let me show you what I do. I go over here to my music folder, and inside my music folder, I've created a new folder called Pro Tools. Inside of my Pro Tools folder, this is where all of my Pro Tools sessions reside. Anything I do with Pro Tools is always going to be in here. This way I know I always can find my work. It's always going to be in the same exact location. Now, for demonstration purposes only, today I'm going to put it on my desktop, and you'll see why here in a moment. Let's go ahead and let's give this session a name. I'm going to call it Test Session. Cool. We got the name of the session. We go ahead and hit save, and you can see Pro Tools is open. Now, notice Pro Tools looks kind of blank and generic right now. That's because there aren't any tracks. Command equals is going to take you back and forth between your mix and your edit window. By the way, if you look off to the right-hand side of my screen, I keep hitting Command equals just so you can see I have KeyCaster running. That way, anytime I do a key command, you guys will be able to see what key commands I do. You're going to find that while we're doing some of these sessions, I'm going to start moving the pace pretty quickly, and so that'll be helpful so you can see what kind of key commands that I'm utilizing. Now, we have nothing going on in the session, so let's create a track. Shift-Command-N is a quick key to create a track. However, since you guys are so new to quick keys, let's show you where we would find that in a traditional standard way. You go up to your Tracks menu, and notice you have New Track. And it gave us the same exact window that we just saw. Now, in this window, if you have a full numeric keypad, I can hold down Command and hit plus signs or minus signs to basically build out the entire session from this one window or create all the tracks that I would need to get the session started. For right now, I'm just going to create a bunch of tracks. That way you guys can actually see a session and see kind of what it looks like. So let's say 4 mono audio tracks. I'll do Command plus. We'll get a new track type. I'll do 4 stereo tracks. And notice if I use my left and right arrow keys with Command, notice it's changing mono or stereo within this window. If I hold Command, I use my up and down keys. Notice it changes the track type. So that's really helpful and useful because I can quickly and easily go build out everything I need for this actual session. So again, I want it to be stereo. I want it to be 4 audio tracks. Cool. Command plus. Let's do a stereo master fader. Cool. Command plus. Let's do 4 stereo aux inputs. Now when I hit create, there's all my tracks. If we do Command equals is going to be one that you're going to get used to, and it'll be one of the first key commands you ever learn. Command equals shows you both your edit window, which is where you're going to be doing the majority of your work, versus a traditional mix window. Your mix window, obviously, it looks a lot like a mixer, and that's what it is. We're going to be doing our mixing in this environment, and we'll be doing all our editing and the arrangement here in our arrangement window, which they basically call the edit window. So I know Logic calls it the arrange window. They call it the edit window here, edit and mix window. Command equals takes you back and forth to the main 2 most important windows you're going to use all month long. Now that we have tracks created, what if I wanted to resize the tracks? Well, I want to kind of show you how to get around through the environment of Pro Tools. So notice if you go in between the 2 tracks, you get a little # mark. You can click and drag, and it'll resize that one track. Pardon me. So I click, and I drag, it'll resize that one track. Cool, that's pretty cool. Now if I hold down Option, notice if I hold down Option and do that, notice I'm resizing all of the tracks. All of the tracks are resizing. So you can also see this little gray area here. You can also go inside here and click and notice if I can check and resize tracks just by doing that as well. So that'll resize tracks. And again, if I hold Option, notice if I hold Option and we make them all micro, Option is going to do the same thing to all. It's going to make all tracks be micro. I'm holding Option again, and I make it jumbo. All tracks are now jumbo. By the way, on the Keycaster, that's what shows up all my key commands that you guys see off to the right-hand side. For some reason, if I hit Option, it's not showing Option. It shows Command. Ooh, it's not showing Command now either. Oh, it shows Command when I use it with another modifier, but just Command by itself. So Command, ooh, that's funny here. I was going key crazy. So Option, unless I use Option with a modifier, you'll notice that Option doesn't show up, so I have to call those out whenever I'm using those. Okay, so we showed you how to resize tracks, and I showed you multiple ways here. So you can go in between the two tracks, click and drag. You can hold Option and go in between a track, and Option will just basically take all tracks, oops, hold on there, and resize them. You can also hold down Option, go inside this little gray area, resize tracks that way. I'm going to show you a quick key way that I like to use because I don't like using any of those methods. I like to hold down Control and Option and use my up and down arrows. And you guys can use this on your standard Mac. You hold down Control and Option and use up and down arrows to resize your tracks. All right, coolio. So we've learned how to create tracks. Shift Command N gives you your quick key to create the new track dialog box. We'll hit cancel, we'll get out of there. We showed you how to resize your tracks. Now let's show you how to hide these tracks. You have a little hide menu here. It's called the tracks menu. If we click and drag, notice it'll hide all those tracks. Now if there's any audio in these tracks, you would actually still hear them play back if we hit play. Of course, we don't have any audio yet, and we will in a moment. But for right now, I just kind of want to give you the lay of the land and show you how Pro Tools works, and then we're actually going to go get the materials for your final projects and start using them. But I want to show you how Pro Tools kind of navigates around. By the way, all the navigation that I've given you guys, it's in all of the videos that you're going to see throughout the week, and it's also in the required viewing lecture. So that's another reason why I would be optimal for you guys to view the required viewing lecture before you show up to this class. Only because I'm going to start moving so fast at some point that you're going to freak out and your head's going to spin. But if you've already seen it once in the lecture, then when I show it to you here in Pro Tools, it'll really gel together and make sense. All right, cool. So the track show hide menu. Now, remember how I said you could hold down Option, and Option would be your modifier to do the same thing to all? So if I wanted to just view one track, let's say I wanted to just see the master fader track. Well, the quickest way would be to hide all tracks, hold down Option, click on any one of these. It's going to hide all tracks. And then just go click on the one track that I want to view. And then we can resize that track so we can see it. So again, click and drag. It shows your tracks. You can resize your tracks. Now this menu that we're looking at, this tracks menu, this may not actually be in view, and that might be because it's hidden out of view. This little small arrow, bottom left-hand corner, that little arrow icon is going to show and hide the tracks menu and the groups menu. We'll talk about the groups menu later on in the month, but the track show hide is kind of important for right now. All right, you also have clips, which clips is only going to be the reference to version 10. This menu that we're looking at here is called Regions in versions 8 and 9, but it does the exact same thing. So why would Digi rename it? Well, they renamed it because they own an editing suite called Avid. And Avid's video clips, they call them clips. The assets are called clips. So, and Pro Tools is always used in the background behind an Avid system. And basically, an Avid system is what 90% of movies are actually cut on. So Final Cut is becoming popular, but Avid systems are still what 90% of all films are actually rendered down on. And Pro Tools is used in the background of them. So they renamed this menu Clips. And this may not be in view. So it, again, be the small arrow at the bottom right-hand corner. Anytime I go to import audio, it's going to reside in my clips list. So let's go and import some audio. We'll go to File, and I could do Shift Command I if I wanted to show off, and this gives you the whole menu here, but that's okay. Let's actually show you how to just do it standard. File, Import, Audio. And there you go. That's a quickie you saw me just use, Shift-Command-I. All right, cool. Now I need to go find where files are located. And let me go find something just kind of small. Let's go in my music folder. And I'm going to go pull one file from my Artist Remix. And I'll explain to you a little bit more about this Artist Remix files, because this is where we're going to be storing some files here in a little bit. How about Above and Beyond? And let me see if I can find the Vox, the vocal. Strings. Ah, there we go. Featuring Zoe Johnson. There she is. Now, while I'm in this menu, I kind of want to talk about some options here. Notice that whenever I select a file, when I don't have a file selected, let me see if I can deselect this. When I don't have a file selected, notice it doesn't give us any information here. As soon as you select a file, it lets you see the file type, the bit depth, the sample rate, the number of channels, and the length and size. Cool, some useful information. If you just select multiple files, that information actually goes away. And it just simply is because it can show you multiple information about multiple files. Now, so there's some other important things here as well. Let's talk about add versus copy. The cool thing about these names is they really do what they say. If I choose add, it will actually add it to my Pro Tools session. However, the file will not be added to my Pro Tools session. The original file will be stored in its original location here in this folder called Above and Beyond. When Pro Tools plays it, it will simply point to its original location. Go ahead and get in the habit of choosing copy. What copy is going to do is it's going to create an exact copy of this file, but it's now going to place that in my audio files folder. So let's choose copy. Notice it add to this right column. If I wanted to, we could audition the file here. We could hit play. And I think it's probably going to be dead air at the beginning of it because it's a file with an artist singing. All right, cool. Well, it looks like that's the original mix. That's not just the vocals. So it's kind of cool that I actually listened to it. There we go. Here's the vocal originals. So that wasn't really the file I wanted anyways. So let's get it out of there. Let's remove it. Let's double click on this file. It'll go ahead and add it. So here's our vocal. Again, if you want to audition the file, you can audition it here. Just hit the play icon. Dream on, little dreamer. Cool. So we can hear the file. That way, if you're not sure if it's the correct file or not, you can audition it. Let's say it's a hour-long file, though. Maybe you want to hear it in the middle. You can scroll along to find where you want to play the file back to reference it from. So I've chosen copy. We got copy there. We see where I got the file. So we'll hit done. Now, what it's asking right now is it's saying, well, where do you want this file to go? If I send it to the clips list, it's going to add it to my audio files folder, which I'll show you here in a moment. But it's also going to put it in the clips list. Well, if I'm going to use it in the song, I might as well just go ahead and put it into a new track. When it goes into a new track, it's going to create the track for me. It's going to put the file in the track, and it's going to name that track based off of the file name of the file. So let's choose new track. And here you can see the file, and it's quickly rendered out. We can see the waveform. I want to put my selector down and play the file. Little dreamer, follow all of your signs. Cool. Really, really excellent vocals, well-produced vocals. Very, very cool track. I'm just going to use this file right now just to kind of give you some examples because I want to actually hide Pro Tools and take you back and show you the desktop. So let's hide Pro Tools. Here is the session. Remember I called it test session? Oops. Let's move this over here to the center so you can see it. Now this is my session folder. Inside my session folder we will find a Pro Tools session file. That's the Pro Tools session file. Pardon me for one moment. All right, sorry about that. Okay, so we have our Pro Tools session folder, which you saw me create on the desktop. And again, I don't put my work on my desktop. And don't get in the habit of putting your sessions on your desktop. There is nothing that looks less professional than somebody that has a cluttered desktop. And I know somebody out there right now is going, oh my gosh, I hope my teacher doesn't see my desktop because my desktop's really dirty. Clean up your desktop. There's nothing worse than seeing a filthy desktop. In fact, anybody who sees that is just going to realize you're not professional right away. So I put it on my desktop just for today's purposes, but here you go. So here's our Pro Tools session folder. That's the session folder. Inside here's a session file. So if I wanted to close this session that we currently have and go reopen it, this would be the file I'd want to go double click on to reopen this current session that we just created. I also imported an audio file. And so if we look inside the audio files folder, Nikey shnikes, I must have chose add. How did that happen? All right, let's go back and do this again. Here's what I'll do. We'll just delete this file. Not really sure why that didn't. I must have chosen add. Let me get rid of the file real quick. That was not a good example, was it? Okay, so let's try this again. Shift Command I. Here is the original vocal. Well, that says ad lib. There's the harmonies. Above and beyond. Oh, it looks like that's going to be it there. Let's go ahead and choose copy. Cool. And then hit done. It asks me where I want to store it. Okay, cool. This is a step we missed. It's going to automatically default back to my current. Oh, yeah, you're right, George. Thanks for catching that. I did double click it. So thanks for catching that. You're right. That's why we're missing the file. So it's actually going to default back to my current audio files folder. Notice it's in that test session in the audio files folder, and that's perfect. That's exactly where we want it. There you go. It's importing the file. We'll go ahead and we'll send it to the clips list for right now because I already have the track created. Clips list. Cool. There's the file. Drag it into a track. That doesn't look like the original file either, but that's okay. Anyways, we'll hide Pro Tools. Let's go back and look in our audio files folder. And you can see there's that file that we just imported. So it now resides. Now, why am I showing you all this? Because you need to understand the file hierarchy of how Pro Tools works. And I want you to understand the difference between a session folder, which is this, and the session file. And I'll explain why here in a second, because it's going to be kind of interesting. If we go back, and let's say I take this file and, oh, I don't know, I'm going to do some kind of edits to it. Notice I haven't described any of the editing tools. You're going to need to go back and do this week's reading, as well as the required viewing to understand the tools. I'm simply going to jump in and start using them, only because all that material is already laid out for you. And unfortunately, just due to a time crunch nature, I don't have time to go through each and every one of them. But they are there for you. In fact, there's short videos showing you that go along with the chapter reading as well. So watch those short videos. That'll show you how to use all the tools. And also, you've got a required viewing you have to watch anyways. That's 2 hours. But that will take you through everything that we're going to learn this week. So anyways, if I edit this file, the point being, if I make an edit on this file, notice here I deleted a section, right? Notice over here, let me open up our clips bin a little bit. I've got a couple different looking files now. Remember, we originally only had one. Well, we still have that one, but now we have 2 audio regions. So notice this one as well, the one on the very top here, it's in bold. When it's in bold, that means it's a whole file. The whole file means it's the original file. Whereas these 2 little guys here, these 2 little guys here that are no longer in bold, they are now called audio regions. So what is all this talk about an audio region versus a whole file? A whole file represents the entirety of the file, the original file that we imported. When I edited this and I deleted that section out, all I really did is I didn't really truthfully delete anything. In fact, if I take my trim tool, I can still trim it back out. All the information's there. So when I'm deleting this, all I'm really doing is I'm telling Pro Tools, hey, what I want you to focus is on the beginning of this portion here and the end. And then the beginning of this portion here and then the end. It basically created a set of pointers that point back or reference portions of that original whole file. And of course, that would allow me to make little edits. Notice if I want to take this and duplicate. Now, notice when I duplicated, notice it didn't make a bunch of extra files over here. Let's undo that. Well, here we go. I'll just do a couple duplications. It's just referencing that same little section there, but asking it to happen in different portions. It's the way basically all DAWs work. They're all non-destructive. So anytime I edit something, I'm not really destructively editing it when I go and chop into it here. If I go look back, notice here we've got how many files there? Well, we got the original whole file, and then we have 3 audio regions. If we hide Pro Tools and go back and look, notice underneath my audio files, there's still just the original whole file. So what does that tell us? That tells us that Pro Tools is now understanding that we are referencing pointers. Points or portions of the original whole file are being referenced. These pointers or sets of coordinates are asking Pro Tools to only represent what we see here. Here we can make a couple more edits if we want. We can even duplicate things like you saw me duplicate. Here, we'll duplicate this guy here a bunch of times. But if I go look back in my audio files folder, there's not all these regions. There's the original whole file with a set of pointers that point back and reference portions of that whole file. If I were to drag out the original whole file to its original length, you can see it's still the original whole file. Okay, cool. So just a little bit about whole files versus non-whole files, or what we call an audio region. Testable question. Hint, hint, wink, wink. All right, cool. So we've got ourselves up and running here. We kind of know a little bit about Pro Tools now. We know how to, maybe hide some windows, hide some tracks. We learned how to resize tracks, make new tracks. I am going to briefly talk about the tools real quick, and I'll probably end up skipping the modes for right now, but I want you to understand how the tools work so you kind of know how to crawl around. And again, you're going to see this information again, and I won't spend a lot of time on it because I want to get you to some new materials and let you have fun with importing the files that you're using for your final project. Let's go ahead and just run you through some tools real quick. The first one that we're going to start off here is a magnifying glass. Notice if I click and drag, it creates a little lasso. It lassos a certain portion. And whatever I zoom into, or whatever I lasso, that's what we're going to be zooming into. Okay, notice that my magnifying glass, it's kind of hard to see at home, but it's got a little plus symbol on there. If I hold down Option, notice it's going to go back out, and it's going to zoom back out. So that's basically a zoom tool. Click and drag, whatever's inside your lassoed area, that's going to be what you zoom into. If you want to zoom back out, hold down Option, and there you go. Your trim tool is right next to your magnifying glass here, or your zoom tool. And your trim tool automatically, no matter what, based off of when it gets beyond the halfway point of any audio region, it's automatically going to flip. I'm not doing that little turnaround that you're seeing. The file is automatically doing that. Let me zoom in on this file so you can see a little better. As soon as I get to the halfway point, it automatically flips. It flips because it knows I want to then trim down a leading edge, or I want to move a set of pointers pointing to the beginning and end of a portion of the original whole file that I need Pro Tools to focus on. So here's my trim tool. I can still trim it back out. I didn't delete anything. All that information's still there. So there's my trim tool. It automatically reverses this position based off the file getting the halfway point of the file itself. If I need to flip the position, you can hold down Option. Option will actually change the position of your trim tool as well. Then we got our selector tool. The selector tool, if you click and drag, will allow you to make selections. If I click anywhere else, though, it lets go of my selection. So clicking and dragging makes a selection, but if I click anywhere else, it lets go of that selection. So if I'm clicking and dragging, I want to update, say, the end of my location, you have to hold down Shift. If I hold down Shift, then I can continue or then edit to that end location. So a single click places what we call, sorry about that, guys. A single click places what we call a timeline insertion. Usually it's going to be for, I'm going to create an edit or I'm going to start playing back from this position. So if I just click once, timeline insertion. If I click twice, it'll select that region. If I click and drag, it'll make a selection. So click once, timeline insertion, usually for editing or playback. Click twice, it'll select the file. Click and drag, it'll make a selection. If I want to update my selection, I can hold down Shift, update the end or the beginning, or you can actually navigate to your ruler view right up top here. You got these little arrow icons. That will allow you to actually change the beginning and end point as well. Okay, so we've got the zoom tool, trim tool, selector tool. Now it's time for the time grabber tool. Now you'll also probably hear this referred to as the grabber tool, because some people kind of just shorten what they name the tool. And what this tool does is allows you to grab individual regions. So notice if I grab this region, I can move it anywhere I want. So I can grab it and move it. But notice I can't select just part of a region. If I want to select part of a region, well, let's first go select part of a region, edit it. Now let's go back to the old time grabber. So notice that whenever you click with the time grabber, it selects an entire region. It cannot select part of a region unless you've already separated it into an individual region. So a single click selects a region. A double click prompts you to name that region. And you cannot select partial regions with the time grabber. So if they sometimes call it the grabber and they sometimes call it the time grabber, what's the dealio? Why are they calling it two different things? Well, here's the deal. If I select this region and I hold Shift and select my next region, notice what just happened. I selected two regions, but I also selected the time in between them as well. So if I go to move these two regions, I moved the two regions as well as their time in between them. Hence the name time grabber. Let me undo a couple edits here. My next tool is the scrub tool. And the scrub tool, I'm going to scrub the audio similar to what you would see a DJ do normally to find the downbeat of a record. So with my scrub tool, cool, scrub tool. In fact, you know what? I'm actually going to go import a little bit longer file to kind of show you guys a little bit more what this tool will do. Let's go import the entire song. I think I was at the bottom here. We will copy it, send it to a audio files folder. Yep, it already defaults there. And he'll create it. Oh, we sent it to the clips list. That's okay. Yeah, the only reason I did this is it'll be kind of cooler to show you the scrub tool because let me kind of scrub a song. Now, if I hold down Option, so if you hold down Option will actually allow you to basically give you a jog shuttle feature. But generally, if you just hold, click and drag, you're scrubbing the waveform. It allows you to actually hear the waveform. The next tool is the pencil tool. And we're almost done with the tools, and then we'll take you on to the smart tool, which will actually combine a bunch of tools. Pencil tool, if I zoom in, and I'm using Apple brackets to zoom in. You guys saw me earlier. This is actually my favorite way to zoom. I don't like the zoom tool here. Click and drag, oh, whoop-de-doo, it zooms in. Cool. I don't like that. I don't like to have to change to a tool. You also have this way of zooming. Here's another little zoom tool. You'll find there's multiple ways of doing the same thing in Pro Tools. So notice this gives you a waveform icon, so you can actually show you the waveform height. It looks like it's getting louder, but it's actually not. Showing you waveform height. And then you got this little guy here. And of course, I showed you the zoom tool, but I don't like to use any of those. I use command and brackets. And if I add option to that, command option brackets, and it'll zoom the waveform height. So it's just my form of working. You choose whatever method you prefer. But just kind of showing you how I zoom. Because let's zoom in here, because we're going to zoom in. And if we zoom in to sample level, in fact, let's do this. Let's just edit out. Where's that big downbeat? That big nasty kick right there. Now that you've seen me make a selection and I want to zoom out and really look at that selection, Option F will take whatever you have selected and it'll zoom it. Because I want to change a little bit of the beginning of the waveform, get right on the downbeat there. Let's look at the end of it too. Here comes the next beat. That looks good. Now I'm going to just trim it. Command T will keep what I've got and get rid of the other two parts. So I could have done Command E, which would separate it, but I did Command T because I just wanted to keep just that one little part there. Because what I want to show you that we can do is we zoom in on this. Okay, notice that we have a solid line, and then it'll turn into an individual line. Once you get to that individual line view where we're no longer seeing color, that's where you can actually take the pencil tool and redraw the waveform. You ever want to, that's kind of gnarly. You ever want to get rid of nasty pops and clicks in your vinyl? There you go. You just draw out the click. You can actually redraw the waveform of the audio itself. Now, once you get to where it's colored and it's no longer an individual line, you can't actually redraw the waveform anymore. So just keep that in mind. So redrawing the waveform, really, it's, somebody had a really good question. Richard asked, what is the scrub tool used for? Let me undo some of my work here. Imagine that there was maybe a pop or a click, but I couldn't see it because the waveform was covering it, but I could hear it. The actual scrub tool allowed me to go in and find where that is so that I could go in and edit it. And Jennifer had a really good question as well. She says, well, how does that change the audio? Well, she was asking about the pencil tool. So let me get back in here and we'll zoom in and kind of Command T and we'll keep just that. Option F will zoom it out so we can see what we got here. So how does it really change the audio? Well, let's get rid of the beginning of this guy here. And let's really redraw. This is just a big kick. It's a big punchy kick. We'll get back to the beginning again. That's just a big nasty punch. So if I was to go in and redraw this, it's going to be probably a very small amount. It'll be milliseconds when I get in and redraw it. But we could actually get rid of the beginning punch to that kick. Let me do this too. I'll zoom into the waveform really hardcore and try to just get it zero crossing or get it as close to zero voltage as possible. And generally, you're going to use this to find and fix errors. You're not going to go in and take somebody's kick and mangle it like I just did. But I just basically got rid of the attack transient of this kick. So we'll have the back end of the kick, but we're not going to have the punch anymore. And again, this is not usually what you would do it for. You'd probably go to find and fix an error, not try to create a weird error. So now this kick no longer has the beginning punch. And again, there's only milliseconds to the very beginning. If we go back and listen to it, you're missing the smack, the initial attack, the kick. It's all gone. Let me get back to where I was. Here, let's actually pull this to the beginning of the session. That way we can always zoom into it. So if we undo it, Command Z, oops, well, we moved it to a different location. Let me undo all those edits. When we listen to it again, it's just going to be a big punch. All right, so basically that's what it was. Jessica said, could you do it with vocals? Yeah, you could, but it would be maybe if you're trying to get rid of somebody's lip smacks or something, like, or something, you know, like, there's a lot of different reasons. There's not a real specific one I can tell you right now. I use it to get rid of pops and clicks on my vinyl. Just because you can see, you can go and redraw the waveform. So, all right, guys. So we've given you the tools. One other quick thing that I wanted to give you here was the Smart Tool. Smart Tool is this little bar right up top here. And the Smart Tool, let me go ahead and duplicate this out. The Smart Tool actually gives you multiple tools at once. What do I mean by that? Well, let's zoom in on this real quick. With the Smart Tool, notice the tool is automatically changing. I'm not doing anything other than changing my position of the mouse. So down below, we have the time grabber. Up top, we are the selector tool. If we go to the leading left edge, it becomes the trim tool. Leading right edge becomes the trim tool again. If we go to the top left, it becomes a fade out. I'm sorry, top right, fade out. Top left, fade in. If I go in between two regions, it gives me the crossfade option to crossfade between two pieces of audio. So very, very helpful, very, very useful, because that means I don't have to keep going up here, grabbing the tool I need. It actually gives me multiple tools at once. So very, very useful, smart tool. Well, I tell you what, guys, what I want to do now is I want to switch gears and I want to show you guys and give you some really cool references for where you can get some awesome um, materials for your final project. So for right now, I'm going to go ahead and just close out of the session. I don't want to use it anymore, so Command Q. It asks me if I want to save it. I'm not going to save it. Command D. And I'm actually just going to trash this session right now. And let's go show you where you're going to get your final project files from. So we got Safari open here. Let's see, where's my Safari? We already talked about the Mac keyboard. A little bit about Beatport. Here is Indaba Music. Pardon me. Pardon me, guys. My cold's starting to get the best of me. My throat's getting a little scratchy. All right. Indaba Music is a really cool site. It's going to give you remix opportunities. In other words, they're going to give you the stems or the files. Thank you. Somebody said bless you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I think I do need sinus medicine. Whoever said that, yeah, Larry, you're absolutely right. I have no idea. This thing came on last night out of nowhere. It came on really quick, too, so I hope it's not like going to be a full-blown flu. All right, back to Indaba Music, though. This is really cool stuff. So Indaba Music is a free site. You want to go on, you want to actually register. So go ahead and do that tonight. Register with Indaba, indabamusic.com. Pardon me once more. Sorry, guys. I had to mute the audio there for a second. Whenever I blow my nose, it just sounds really, really funny. It's kind of gross. So I figured I'd spare you guys the details. Indaba Music. Indaba Music is a free website. It's a free website that's going to give you remix opportunities. You're going to get some really great stuff. For instance, once you sign up for an account, here's how it works. You basically have 3 free keys or 3 free opportunities to download the files from the artist that you're currently seeing. So go ahead and set up your free account. Wait to actually download the files because I want you to go through and figure out which files you want to use first. And after you enter an opportunity, you'll be locked out. So I'll show you what we mean by that because there's some ones up here that I listened to before class. Oh yeah, somebody says, can I post the link in the box? Yeah, sure. In fact, I'll just highlight up top here. Here is the website. So once you create a free account, you'll have 3 free opportunities. And what you want to do is you want to go to the Opportunities tab that we see up the top here. And so once we're in the Opportunities tab, which actually we currently are, it'll rotate through and it'll show you prize earnings that you could potentially win if you submit to their website. And you're welcome to submit to them if you want. We're just using their files for our final project. But if you feel like your work's good enough to submit it, by all means, submit it and try to win the money. Sometimes it's gear, sometimes it's money. Sometimes it's pretty substantial money too, several $1,000s, and sometimes it's just swag and gear. But here's a couple tracks here. I've already downloaded these files, so I can't really show you how to download these. I'll go find an artist I haven't downloaded yet. I've done this one as well. I have not done this one, so let's take a look at this one. So what I want to do first is actually listen to the song. So let's go ahead and let's just click on this artist. It now takes us to the page, the opportunity page. And if we hit the play icon, it'll play the song for us so we can actually hear the files.
Every step a dream, dancing in the stars to the beat of the drum machine. Now here I go, I feel it in my body and my soul. And I know, you said that can't take me down. And I know, you said that can't take me down. You
All right, cool. So you get the idea. They're really well-produced tracks. In fact, you're going to find some of these are about to be released or will be released shortly. Sometimes they're actually waiting for your remix files to include them on the album or on the single. So the opportunities here are really, really cool. We're simply going to use their files for our class, and I'll show you how to get their files. Now, I picked this song, and while this may or may not be the actual band that we'll decide to work on, let me go back and see one of these other files. Here, let's find one of these other artists. Go back to opportunities. Let me see. I heard one earlier. I thought this one was pretty good. So let's actually listen to this one. We'll click on the file here. We're now on the artist page. We'll hit play. I thought this one was pretty good. Let's listen to it.
This one's for the homeless romantic. Used to stay up late, giving your take on philosophy. Now it's like everything you say lost on me. Remember when we used to fight aristocracy? You knew the whole flash dance of geography. See, just like seeing humans change. We never see you anymore, we ain't the same. You never come out, you never see your mates. Or when we arrange, he tells you to stay. You don't have to do that.
So you get the idea. You want to go back and basically audition the actual files themselves. That way you want to find a song that you're going to be happy working on. Generally, the way this music industry works is the client comes to you. You usually don't get to choose what song you want to work on, but I want you guys to have fun with it this month. So I want you to choose a song that you kind of think that you like, that you could put your own spin on it. Basically, here's what you're going to end up doing. We're going to get the files here in a moment, but you're basically going to get all the raw files, and you're going to throw them all away except for the vocal and end up replacing those with your own sounds. So let me go back and see. I think there's another remix opportunity that I thought was really good. By the way, I have a paid account. You guys don't have to have a paid account. If you pay for your account, I believe it's $50 a year, and you can download all of the files, all the artists you want. Right now, with a free account, remember, you'll only have 3 opportunities, so just choose wisely before you start downloading your files. Let's see, that guy was all right. I think it was these guys here. Let's take a listen here. Yeah, I'm digging this one. I really like her vocals. They're kind of almost punk, but they're like punk pop. So I like this. I'm going to go with this track. So please pay attention because I'm going to show you how you get the files for these tracks here. It's kind of important too, because if you mess up this process, once you enter the opportunity, see off to the side here where it says enter opportunity. Once I do this, I can't undo it. So that's why I'm asking you to listen to the song and choose wisely on what you're going to work on. So this is going to be what we're going to work on all month. I dig the track. I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be fun hearing her vocals raw and then allowing me to put my own spin on it. Definitely a heavy electro vibe, but I'll probably go a little bit different direction. And it already sounds like the tempo is at a pretty good tempo for standard house music is what I usually produce. So if you're more into the hip hop genre, that last song we listened to sounded like it was going to be a lot more hip hop. But let's show you how to get the files. Okay, so you hit enter opportunity. Pardon me. When you do this, down at the bottom here, here's a bunch of legal jargon for basically scum-sucking lawyers that if I had to surmise this for you, it's basically saying, hey, if you take this work and you try to go out and sell it in any way, shape, or form, you do not own the copyright for this, and we will come sue the pants off of you and leave you naked in the street. So basically, it's just letting you know that this is copyrighted material. Even though they're allowing us to use it, you can't do anything with this other than use it for our final project, which we're going to do. And then if you want to submit it back to them to potentially get on the album or win whatever remix prize and opportunities they have, then there you go. All right, so it's all the legal stuff that we're all pretty familiar with. So accept and continue. Now this is important. Once I do that, here's where the files are. Notice that enter opportunity went away and now it says submit your track. That's important because now we're on the window where I have to get the files, and if I don't get them in this one shot and on this one window, the files will be gone from me. Even though I have a paid account, these files will all be gone. And notice they're down here. Oh, interesting. They didn't give us the vocals? They have to give. Oh, they're there. Vocals. Excellent. Cool. So I'm going to go ahead and choose download all stems. And I'll pull up my download manager. And of course, the song is now downloading. This may take a little while, so while this is actually doing its process, I want to show you another very cool feature that you probably don't realize that you have your hands on, but I want you to have basically the same files I'm going to be using all month when we start working on this remix. So I want to give you a loop library that you already have, and you may not be aware that you have it. Oh, by the way, notice we have 15 days to submit this, so in the event that you get stoked about this and you want to submit it. Oh, and there's another thing I want to show you here. FAQ, frequently asked questions. This is going to be important because once we have the files, we're going to need to know what key they're in and what tempo. So if you look under FAQ, frequently asked questions, scroll down here, you can see question. What tempo is Vive le Rio and what key is it in? Vive le Rio is in the key of G minor and at a tempo of 130 beats per minute. That's going to be super important information. Somebody asked a good question. Freeman said, why did I download all of the stems if I'm only going to use the Vox? Well, the idea is that once I have all their files, number one, I kind of like to see the way other people produce their stuff, and having their raw files is going to be really cool because you'll see, we're going to be able to solo out the individual instruments. Usually, the individual instruments will be there for us. So I like to kind of usually mock what they've done and then put my own spin on it. And if you have all the files, then you can kind of mimic what they've done and then again put your own twist on it and then throw away their files, and nobody will ever know that you kind of borrowed off what they already did but just slightly changed yours, and that's how you kind of came up with your tune. So another good point to probably bring up right now, some people probably are asking, well, what is a remix? The best way for me to give you an idea of what a remix is many times there'll be a pop version of a song that you'll hear on the radio, and then if you go out down to a nightclub, you'll hear a very similar version, but slightly different. Usually going to be sped up. The bass and the beat's going to be a little bit heavier, and it'll be turned into a club remix. Generally, what's kept is the vocals are kept, everything else is thrown away, and then they've really just beefed up the track, and that's actually what we're going to do. Let's take a look at my download progress. Okay, files are almost downloaded. Excellent. Now, once these files are downloaded, remember, organization is key. So I'm going to show you where to organize these files, and then I want to talk to you about your loop library that you probably didn't realize you have. All right, let's go get these files. Let me show you what I do with these. I'm going to end up renaming this folder because I don't want all there's some other silly stuff that are attached to the file. So if I go look at my downloads, let's see here. Premium. Okay, here's the files here. All right, notice that it attached some like silly numbers. If we look at the actual file name, all I really want is the name of the artist because I'm actually going to keep these. So they're called Five Knives. Let's keep it capital F, capital K. I'm doing this because I'm going to be archiving this for so that I'll always have these files. Not that I can go sell them or do anything with them. So I think it was called Vive. All right, let's get back here. Sorry, struggling here. Vive. Leroy. So I just like it to look nice and pretty because we're going to end up using these files later on. Notice it's got some silly number at the end. Okay, now I've got the artist name. Now I want to attach to it the information that we saw in the frequently asked questions. So we see here it's a G minor on tempo of beats per minute, BPM, beats per minute of 130 beats per minute. So let's go add that to the file name. We'll hide this. So the BPM, should I decide to try to do something with this, later on, I'll have the information. Because those files, once they go away, I won't have the information anymore. And what was it, G minor I thought it said? Yes, G minor. So tempo, 130 beats per minute. G minor. Okay. Now let's go put this where it belongs. If I open up my hard drive here, notice inside my music folder, remember earlier I told you guys I created a Pro Tools folder? Well, I also have a folder with artist remix files. Anytime an artist sends me something, I keep their original and I don't want to mess with it. I keep it as a safety backup. So you can see there's a bunch of different stuff here that's been sent to me by artists that I was working on, or some of it's stuff from the website that we just saw in Dava Music. So let's go ahead and put those files here. Oops, I think I put them inside of a folder. Didn't mean to do that. Where'd it go? I think I put them in. It was called Five Knives. Where is it? Did I put it in here? Didn't mean to do that. Silly me. So just drop it over into this folder here. That way we've got it. Excellent. So now we've always got it there for safekeeping. Now we already learned one of the ways to import audio. So why don't we open up our Pro Tools session and show you how to get these files into your Pro Tools session. And then the very last thing I want to do before we get out of here this evening is I want to talk about, remind me to bring up your loop libraries that we're going to be using so you guys will have the same exact loop libraries. I'm going to give you guys 8.5 gigs worth of loop libraries to use. Some of it's pretty cool stuff, some of it's kind of cheesy, but it's actually given it to us by DigiDesign. So I've got the original files there. That's a good start. Now let's get back over into Pro Tools. Well, it looks like I quit Pro Tools, so we're going to have to relaunch Pro Tools from the dock. No big deal. And while I'm here, let's do this too. Since we're going to be creating a brand new session, I might as well just copy the information because I'm going to have to name this, right? So I just highlight the artist name, copy, Command-C, and that way when I create the new session, I'll just do Command-B. Your session will probably load a lot faster. I just happen to have a lot of plugins. So you'll notice here it's taking Pro Tools a little bit longer than standard loading procedures. All right. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and let's create a brand new session. Waiting for my. All right. Pro Tools is now open. Let's create a blank session. Now remember, I want to put it back in its original, in its new location. So music. I'm not going to put it in the artist remix files. That's where I store the original as an archive. I put it in my Pro Tools folder, and let's name it. Remember, I did Command C, so just Command V, and we'll save it inside my Pro Tools session. So now we got the blank session. Now we need to get the artist files into the session. Shift Command I is the quick key. We go into the artist remix files we just talked about. We go find the band, Five Knives. We open up their folder. There's the parts that we need, the individual stems. Now make sure again you don't choose add. You want to choose copy because we want to keep the originals. That way if we somehow bogart and really mess our session up, we'll have the original files there as a backup. So make a copy of these to go to your audio files folder. Hit done. It defaults back to the audio files folder. Coolio, hit OK, open. Awesome. So we're getting the files in. You can see they're all loading. I'm going to go ahead and send them to a brand new track. We're just getting started. Might as well put them on the track that they need to go on. So here is that track that we just listened to. Here are all the files. I'm noticing all the files are grayed out, and that usually means there's no output assigned. Notice how the faders, this is a good learning lesson here. Notice my faders in my pan positions are all grayed out. That's because it doesn't understand what output to go out of. Let's take a look here. I have a feeling it might not be seeing my audio interface. It's not. That's okay. Let me go ahead and save my work so I have the files in my Pro Tools session. Let's go to my setups menu, playback engine. This happens from time to time. So I'm glad that you guys are actually getting to see this. Sometimes Pro Tools just won't see your audio interface. It just doesn't understand. So go to your playback engine. Whew, that's weird. It does see it. All right, well, I think I have an idea what's going on then. So let's take a look at my setups menu. Let's go to IO setups. Aha, there's nothing going on in the output. So let's say default path order. There we go. Now we actually have outputs. Let's take a look at inputs. That's good to go. Hit OK. Voila. Now our waveforms have pretty little colors to them, so we know that they are now active. So the vocals that we heard, in fact, if I wanted, I could play the whole track, but the vocals that we heard, that's what we're probably going to be dealing with. And so let's go ahead and just solo those out and let you hear the vocals.
You wrestle bull, rattle and shake, I've been in rain.
We'll add in the drums.
It's fucking blood, load and attack. I choke and crash. You dream and crash. You hope and love. I gotta run. I bear the cross of all my wrongs. You take the throne.
All right, you get the idea. We have the individual files inside of Pro Tools. So now we have a good starting point. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys where the loop libraries are that I want you guys to have. That way you can kind of have the same materials I have. That way you don't feel left out of the process here. We showed you how to get the artist files into an artist folder and put them in their own location, and then create a Pro Tools session, import those files into a Pro Tools session. Now let's show you some files that I want you guys to actually have so that you'll have these for when we come back next week and we're going to get started on this session. We're actually going to start working on the final project right here, first day of class. So what are the files I'm talking about? Let's go ahead and I'm going to save the session. We'll close it for right now. And I want you to navigate to your Avid account. So you're going to go to your DigiDesign account, your Avid account. I believe I have mine here. All right, cool. Let me go ahead and log into my account. All right, cool. I'm going to log in. All right, now that I'm logged in, you can see here, I want to go over here where it says view my product details. This is where you're going to find the loop libraries, and it's again 8.5 gigs of some really cool stuff. Some of it can be cheesy, but I find that I end up using a lot of these in my remix projects. So, by the way, I have tons of loop libraries, but this one happens to be really good, and it actually gives us some extra information. And it gives us tempo as well as key information about all the files. That's why it's going to be really important to use these. Okay, when I look under my products here, I see Pro Tools 10. Look under where it says downloads. And if you scroll down, you're going to see these things called Big Fish. These are all the loop libraries. Now you can download them right here from their site. I recommend downloading them one at a time. If you try to download them all at once, I've had students tell me they've had issues, and in fact, when I tried that, I had issues as well. So just download them one at a time. And then what are you going to do with these once you download them? Again, I want you to keep good folder hierarchy. So let me show you what I've done. I go to my music folder. We've already showed you the artist remix files. That stays in its own location. We've shown you the Pro Tools session and where the session folder and session files are. Okay, you're going to keep that separate. And then I've created a sounds and samples folder. And inside here, you see I've got Avid materials. These are all those files that I just showed you from Avid's website. So once you download these, you'll be using the same files that I have to work with on your remix. So I don't want you to feel cheated. Know that you'll have the same professional killer files that I'm using in this project, which will be a lot of fun for this month. In the event that you have your original installation discs, these files are also on your original installation discs under a DVD that says, I believe it says something about loops. But in the event that you don't have your original installation discs, go ahead and navigate to your Avid account, and then there's the loops. So these are going to be the loops that we're going to Richard had a question, and it's your personal installation disc. There's an extra disc in there. It's an actual DVD that it'll say something about loops. I don't remember exactly what the disc says. I don't have it in front of me. But yeah, if you have your original installation discs, these same files, it'll be a little bit quicker for you too than having to download them online. It doesn't take that long to download them, but in the event that you have those discs, all you have to do is rip them off that disc, create your own folder, put them in that folder just like I showed you. So again, if we go back, I put it in my music folder. Now, because I use a lot of loop libraries, I created a folder called Sounds and Samples. You can see I have a bunch of different ones here. These are just some of the stuff I use. I have, 500 gigs of loop libraries that I've been collecting just throughout the years. But here's what we've been using. We're going to be using these this month. Avid Materials. These are all the loop libraries that you just saw. I tell you what, guys, we're starting to wind down for into class time. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and open it up for questions or comments you guys might have. And then we'll wrap up for the night. Again, we only have 6 minutes left of class. Yeah, George is saying the audio loops is on the DVD. Yeah, there is a DVD that comes with your installation disc. So that's basically what these files are. 8.5 gigs, really good stuff. Is there some cheesy stuff in there? Yeah, I'm sure you're going to find some stuff that'd be like, wow, that's lame. But there are some really cool files in there as well. How do you access those loops in Pro Tools? Well, remember we just imported the artist files? We're going to do the same thing. I was actually going to wait till next week to show you guys how to do that. Only because I want to make sure we have plenty of time for student questions. But yeah, we're going to do that next week. So next week, we've already got the artist files. We're going to start importing those files and starting to work on this track. Cool. So any questions you guys might have? We got about another 5 minutes left of class. Roberto, I would highly recommend that you do upgrade to the latest version. Your 10.3.3 will probably be okay throughout the course. I just know that the latest version seems to be very stable. That's 1036. So, Jennifer, you're saying you couldn't upgrade it, and I don't know. You might have to get with me on what that is. Just get in touch with me. Give me a call, and we'll figure out what it is. Somebody asked for when the archive is going to be available. It'll be available sometime tomorrow evening. The archive has to render down as soon as I get off this evening. It'll start its rendering process, and then I have to upload it. So it takes a little while. So you'll be looking for this archive under your announcements section. Frederick, yeah, Frederick was mentioning that he wanted to get the files and get started. Nice. Hang on one second. I just got to scroll up. I'm missing some questions. There's a lot of questions coming in. Give me 1 second. So a couple people are asking, do they have to upgrade? No, as long as Pro Tools is running fine for you, that's fine. But I just know through experience that if you do upgrade, you're going to have less problems because typically the bugs have been weeded out through each of the upgrades. Hey, Aaron, thank you. Sorry, I'm dying on you guys over here. I didn't mean to. Just some kind of nasty little bug caught me last night. Somebody asks, is 10.4 okay? Yeah, if as long as it's working, that's fine. Again, I would highly recommend upgrading, but again, that's up to you. Oh, thanks, Aaron. I appreciate it, man. I don't. Hopefully, it's something really short-lived. I've heard the lemon water thing. I might have to try that. I appreciate the advice. Let me see if there's any other questions that I missed. We've only got a couple minutes left of class, but I still want to make sure I get to all your questions. By the way, great attendance tonight. There's a lot of people out for tonight's session. I hope you guys got some out of it. I know it is kind of getting started, where some of the stuff might feel rudimentary. I want to warn you, it's not always going to be this easy. This class will start ramping up real quick. I like George. I actually think I like that. Warm bourbon, then the lemon, and then the honey. Nice. Just not before class, though. Hey, yeah, Larry, you had a really good question. Larry had a question. He's asking, are there other websites kind of like Indaba? Yeah, check out Beatport Play. Let me pull that up real quick. There's some pretty cool files on there too. In fact, I just downloaded some stuff from them the other week. Beatport Play. Beatport is a site that I purchase all my tunes off of that I DJ with. But if we go Beatport, I think I need to put Play in there. Beatport Play. They just started doing kind of this remix deal of their own as well. Yeah, here we go. Beatport Play. And I'll just go ahead and copy and paste that URL so you guys have that. The only thing I didn't find, and again, I didn't really dig around too hard on this website, is I didn't see key information and tempo information, which I can show you how to do it at a later date, but we just don't have time for it this evening. But yeah, good question. Ooh, Talent House. Let me check that one out. Might have to bookmark that one. Let's see. So do they give you the artist remix files here as well? I love it when you guys turn me on to new stuff like this. Just looking, seeing, cruising through the artist. Okay, so it says remix. Let's take a look here. Well, get details. Let's take a look at that. Okay, it's all just down below. Huh. Stem's no longer available. So it looks like this contest probably closed out. All right, well, thanks. You know what? I'm actually going to bookmark this anyways, though. Let me go back a page so I'm at the original home page. Because I'm going to bookmark this. I really appreciate you turning me on to that. I don't know who sent that out there, but thank you. Well, D. Yeah, I'll put it there. Nice. Cool. Killer. Yeah, Richard, not a problem, man. It's really tedious getting out the clicks and pops, but I mean, sometimes it's super worth it, especially if you're trying to archive your vinyl, because a lot of the format now, when you show up to a nightclub, is all going to be digital. In fact, a lot of nightclubs, their turntables are now unplugged and sitting off to the side. Uh, so yeah, absolutely, I can give you any hands up you need. Jessica, I'm not really sure if I know what your question. You were saying something about sites to stay away from. I'm not really sure if I know what it is you're referring to. So far, the sites that you guys have shown here, the Beatport Play, the Indaba Music, and this Talent House, these all look like they're pretty legit. SoundCloud, you got to be careful with SoundCloud because they're their own individual company. They don't use. I don't know if they've started hosting remix contests. Maybe they have. I'm not sure. I've kind of started getting upset with SoundCloud because I used to post my DJ remix sets up there, and they started banning stuff. They would scan it, and then they would basically scan your files, and if they found any of them that were copywritten, which I'm not making any profit off of, but they started booting me off. So I'm kind of upset with SoundCloud currently. Yes, there is. Joseph King had a very good question. Take a look at here. I believe it's Pro Tools user blog or Pro Tools experts. Pro Tools expert. So this site that I'm taking you guys to right now, Pro Tools expert, and I'll copy and paste the URL for you. This is not Avid's site. It is a very professional and well done site that used to just be a blog, and now these guys have turned it into a really well put together site. And the reason I'm taking you to this is because every single day they post something new on here. They give you tips and tricks on using Pro Tools. And somebody asked me about free plugins. Let me find their search field because they have a list of free plugins. That's great. Where is their search field? Is it at the bottom? Sorry, I'm just trying to find their search field. Oh, here we go. Search. Free RTAS. RTAS stands for Real Time Audio Suite. There you go. This is the one you want to use. See how it says Pro Tools Expert Blog? This is the one I was looking for. If you're looking for some free plugins, here's the list. It features free Pro Tools AAX, which is the new format. AAX is actually made for the bigger TDM systems, which we don't really talk about that. But AAX and AAU are very similar, and RTAS. So most of us are going to be using RTAS. If you think we missed one, please let us know. But here's the link. Click on the link. Thank you for taking time to contact us. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, it looks like it's down below. There you go. And here's the good old list. So yeah, there is a lot of really, really cool stuff out there. Oh, nice, Freeman. Good advice. You're giving me some SoundCloud advice. I usually post my sets up because I want everyone to hear them. But I guess that's what's going on. I guess if I just post them, I don't know. But yeah, somehow I'm getting choked up in their system. And I'm sure I could have gone on some blogs and read about it, but instead I just said, what the heck, I kind of gave up on it. But thanks, Freeman. I appreciate that. That's a really good pointer for SoundCloud. Thank you. Well, guys, we're now 6 minutes past, and I don't mind hanging out for a little bit, but if there's no more questions, I think we're going to wrap it for the night. Gilbert had a good question. You can use whatever plugins you want. In the event that you use something that is outside DigiDesign, I actually have a pretty big plugin list, but at the same time, on your final project, if it's something outside of DigiDesign, you're going to have to print that down. Yeah, you can use the virtual keyboard, and since yours isn't working. However, I would recommend you contact FSO support and get that keyboard fixed. It should still be under warranty, I believe. I'm not sure. You guys, some of you have probably been in the classes about a year, so it might not be out of warranty. All right, guys, if you guys don't have any more questions, we are going to wrap for the night. Shakir asked about using Rewire. I'm not going to use Rewire. We'll briefly talk about it, but I'm not going to use it in your final project. Let's see. A couple people said that does the Oxygen have warranty? Yeah, everything that you guys got from your Launchpacks package that actually all has a 1-year warranty. Yeah, I would actually, especially for this course, like again, I don't want to pick on the fact that they sent you a keyboard that is small, but for really, if you want to be a musician, you're going to need more keys. You really are. So I went ahead and bought a 61 key controller just because I like to be able to run my hands up and down the keys and play two-handed chords as opposed to just one hand. Yeah, if you guys are experiencing any broken gear, please contact FSO support. I can't guarantee what they can or can't do because it's completely out of my hands. Hey, thanks, George. I appreciate the well wishes on feeling better. Thank you. All right, guys, we're going to wrap for tonight. I appreciate you guys coming out. I look forward to seeing you back next week, and we'll get hands deep into this project. I'm glad we got the files. We got them imported into Pro Tools. We learned a lot of little valuable tips and tricks on how to navigate Pro Tools. I appreciate all the well wishes and you guys asking me to feel better. Sorry for wheezing and coughing and for the scratchy throat, but I still want to be able to hang out with you guys on your first evening and not leave you hanging like that. And I actually did consider calling our class off, but I was like, whatever, I can tough it out for 2 hours. So listen, guys, have a great evening. We'll see you back next week. Take care.